If food is music, what song are Collards?
If food is music, the song that Collards would be is James Brown, Make It Funky. So, because there's such a variety of things you can do with Collards, right? So that's making it funky. I would say that that would be what it was. Oh yeah, and you know, James Brown, Macon, Georgia, Collards. You know.
Keeping it local.
Keeping it local.
Matthew Rayford.
Yes, Corey.
We are here at Gilliard Farm.
We are.
This is your family's land for generations.
Since 1874.
1874.
Since 1874.
Your great.
There you go.
Grandfather.
Jupiter Gilliard. Paid $9 in taxes for 476 acres of land. Wow. And allegiance to the Union Army.
Besides being a farmer and you're a chef, you have a company called Strong Roots 9. Does this tree have anything to do with the name of the company?
Oh, wow. It's interesting that you say that because, yes, these roots go very strong. My roots are here very strong. The number 9 is for the $9 in taxes.
You have the rare experience of being literally rooted in this land, like most Americans, let alone people of color that were taken away from the land, don't have ancestry rooted in place.
Yeah, not for that many generations. That's
I mean,
sure.
It's a real gift.
It's a real, and you know, I take it as a gift. You know, when we were walking around earlier talking, I mean, it's nothing I take for granted.
Yeah.
I think I took it for granted when I was a kid, though. Yeah.
And I'm the same way. I think I grew up and didn't think about how those things are important.
Right.
Once you go away and you come back.
Yeah, definitely.
The purpose of this video is we're going to kind of explore some culinary uses of collards. So I want to talk about collards, but I also just want to get a little bit of background about your cooking background and what brought you into the kitchen and kind of how that story went.
Yeah, so my father's a baker by trade. Baker back in the 50s and 60s. So I grew up I was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut, but I grew up here in the Southeast Georgia eating things like apple turnovers made with puff pastry dough.
Oh, wow.
You know, I was, pinafores. I grew up eating all these like things that most people were like, oh, y'all must have had a lot of money. No, my dad just knew that flour and butter, a little bit of liquid, you can get some really nice stuff.
Interesting.
So I was always inside the kitchen. And then my sister, we're old school latchkey kids,
right?
70s, early 80s, right? So I ended up having to cook for my sister. So I'd learned how to cook from the women in the family, and then my mom. And so I wanted to be a chef when I finished high school. And I never really believed that, it was going to be an opportunity. And next thing you know, I'm at the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York.
Wow. You had this experience with food, and we're talking about food from a farm, food that we both kind of grew up with, that I've seen and I know you've seen, people not being able to associate with it, not knowing how to prepare it, not knowing what to do. Like, so much fresh food gets wasted in this country.
Yeah.
What do you think's the impediment for people? Like when they see something that's a whole leaf of collard or whole foods that you have to break down.
That you got to break down, yeah.
What do you think the impediment is?
We can get anything we want anytime we want, already ready for us. My sister's the best example, and I love using her because it was my sister's responsibility to go out to the chicken coop and get the eggs that we were going to either eat for breakfast or there was something to be made with them.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Now you imagine doing this at like 4 or 5 years old, right? And she's in there with these baby raptors trying to figure out how to live, right? But I mean, I think there's that part, right, where you grow up and you start to understand, oh wait, chicken, egg. Who knew, right?
There's a connection.
There's a connection here, right? And so think about how many people today think that there's some magical chicken out there that's shooting out eggs, all day, every day just for their consumption, right? That those are the impediments. Like, people don't know where the food comes from, taking the time and making it a social activity, and then understanding that we don't always have to be in a rush. You know what I'm saying?
To appreciate it, you have to take time.
Appreciate it and take time, and cooking is about time.
I do want to talk about collards because
okay, let's talk about it.
That's going to be our featured crop. We're going to plant some collards.
Yep, we're going to plant some Georgia collards to be exact. I'd love for when you come back, you know, that we talk about the collard green project, you know, and there's 40 different species that are being actually cultivated right now.
Let's go plant some collards.
Let's go plant some collards.
So after our first visit in September, we came back a few weeks ago to check in on Matthew and see how the collards were growing.
This was originally the collard patch that we started and planted together. I have not put anything on these collards. It's only been God's rain. It's only been the little bit of compost I put to it when I first started, and this is what we have now. These collards right here would be considered like baby collards, right? Because most of the time what people think about when they think about collards, they think about the bush, right? Or they think about the collard tree. But these are just the babies. What I like about these greens is they take about half the time to cook. Collards are very much so like kale. As a matter of fact, collards and kale are in the exact same family. Exact same family. And they're two of the oldest greens that are known to man. Collards and kale go all the way back to Mesopotamia, as in something that is being cultivated. So when we think about old, when we think about things that have sustained people for a very, very long time, collards and kale have. Collard Project is working with the Utopian Seed Project, Chris Smith, who wrote the book Okra. And one of the things that he has put together, along with Ira Wallace from Southern Seed Exposure, is to take all the variety of collards and continue to plant them and continue to talk about the variety that is out there. As a matter of fact, if you go back to the early 1400s, collards are a thing.
If you had to tell someone who is growing collards for the first time, what should they concentrate on?
I would say concentrate on ensuring that you compost these when you first get ready to plant them, so that they get that first boost to try to grow. The second thing I would look at is how I'm going to prepare the collard. And so when I look at it from that standpoint, today we're actually going to make a collard wrapped dumpling, or a domas. Think of like a grape leaf that's stuffed, but we're going to do it with a collard. So because we're going to do it with a collard, I don't want a big giant leaf that I got to like cut and chop all the way down. I want to use a leaf like this. Okay, something that's fairly tender. See how tender, see how flexible that is? This is what I want to use. I always hear people talk about how southern collards are. Southern is just the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg. If we start to look underneath, collards and kale have been cooked by a little bit of every race of people in the world. So we are more alike than we are different.
After the harvest, we went inside to Matthew's test kitchen, where we prepared some amazing pot liquor and some really delicious stuffed collard leaves.
Sure, you saw me earlier holding these greens that had the well more than 6-inch root. Well, this is those greens washed. We got them all washed up. And now what I'm getting ready to do is you can use this right here, this end piece. And in this particular case, we're gonna just chop these greens up. Really rough. Don't need to be perfect with this. So I'm adding water to this. A little bit of salt. A little bit of black pepper. And I'm getting ready to get a little bit of garlic in there, because what we're going to do is we're going to actually start making the stock for this amazing stuffed dumpling. So I'm gonna throw this garlic in, and then I'm prepping these. So I kind of put that in because I want a little extra on it, but I'm getting ready to start prepping these beautiful little baby collard leaves right here. And I don't want to lose anything, as in not use everything that I have. So I'm just gonna cut these little ends off right here. And I'm gonna use these still in my collard stock, AKA pot liquor. Inside of pot liquor, that's what's left liquid-wise after you've cooked greens. When I was a child, my grandmother and my great-grandma and my mom would take whatever liquid was left and put it in a jar, mason jar, put a top on it and put it in the refrigerator. What they would do is we would either warm it up as a broth, use it as a vegetable stock to kind of get chicken, like a chicken noodle soup going, but we would drink it. And it kept down all of the things like a cold. And so there's really a lot of immune boosting properties behind just taking the liquid from the collard, because as we know or are learning about, as you cook something, the nutrients end up in the water. That's why the less amount of time that you cook something, the more nutrients your body can take in. Now let's start thinking about assembling our collard wrap, our collard and rice dumpling. So what I have here is what would be considered some leftover mushy rice that I have going on. Ooh, bolognese. So the bolognese that we have right here, that bay leaf was really good. It took us about 4 hours to make the bolognese, I think it was. My wife made this bolognese for us, and we used it in our lasagna. And what ended up happening was what was left from the last time she made it, we put in a little container to use at some other point, either as a quick meal or as an addition to something else. So we've mixed it up with this rice a little bit. And then we have a nice little mix right here. I have a little bit of cayenne, some steak seasoning, a little bit of smoked paprika. So the bolognese already has a really, really good flavor. But, you know, when you think about greens, oftentimes you think about hot sauce. And so here we go. Adding some heat to this. If you're one of those people that always say, you know, I don't have enough time to cook. Well, you actually got to make time to cook. It's not one of those things of like, oh, I did it, so it should be done. Okay, you actually have to take the actual time to do the work. As you can see, even just trying to do these collard rolls, it takes me a little time to get it right. Food is not instantaneously there. This is not a grocery store when you think about local. People are not ordering big amounts of things and just dropping them off. This is a farmer taking every single moment of his time or her time of the day to work on cultivating the food. So yes, it's not instantaneous. Just like cooking is not instantaneous. It all takes time. I guess another way to think about it is, how do we actually learn to enjoy food? So I enjoy food, but I'm a chef and a farmer. I enjoy food probably a little bit differently than most because I grow it. I then bring it in and turn it into something like this, and then I consume it. I am a part of every piece of that food system, right? Other people are connoisseurs. They go out, they taste something, they love it, right? Other people are trying to figure out how to move themselves to like other foods. Well, that means you have to take the time to either cook it or taste it or both. Cooking is not a quick over and done process. If you're going to do this, if you notice, I had to cut it. I had to cook the rice. The bolognese took a couple of hours. So when you see all of this coming together and you see the movie magic of things on TV or whatever it might happen to be, there is time and preparation that has to go into it. If you want to be in control of not just the food that you get to bring in the house, but also how it's prepared, it's advisable that you learn how to cook. And guess what? You need nothing more than a recipe book that might happen to be your favorite, a knife or two, a few pans, maybe a spatula or a set of tongs, and that's it. All the other things, oh yeah, and please get measuring cup and measuring spoons so that you aren't trying to do the pinches, the dashes, and the drizzles like your grandma used to do and hope that it comes out right. Follow that recipe. You're not supposed to let it get much past that. and it'll cook all of that. The steam will cook all of that. So this is Mambo number 9 sauce. I call it Mambo number 9 because it's kind of snake-like in that it creeps up on you. And before you know it, you're like, oh. So this actually came from my wife and I sitting around talking about collard greens and rice. And the conversation went a little something like this. Is domas the first time that a leaf and rice probably went together? And what we ended up having a conversation about during that process was rice being a very African and Gullah Geechee centric food, along with greens being a very centric or very much a part, greens in general, very much a part of the Southern diet, the African American diet, the diaspora diet, the African diaspora diet, because feijoada in Brazil, part of that national dish is collards, white rice, black beans, and shredded beef. So that being those things, we decided to kind of like try it out. And then this is what we have. We have a collard and rice dumpling with a little bit of mamba sauce. And me and my homeboy Corey are about to try to eat a little bit, and mostly because neither one of us have had lunch yet.
Matthew, this looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking so much time. This is like my favorite thing to do is to
eat.
It's to eat with friends, and to eat with friends who have put some kind of intention into what they serve. And I can tell you put a tremendous amount of care into this, so I can't wait to try it, and I can't wait for many, many more meals.
Well, all I can say is breast and yam, which in Gullah Geechee means bless and eat. So thank you very much for coming out. And to celebrate this also, my mom made pound cake. So she made 2 types from the eggs from the farm. Lemon and traditional vanilla pound cake. So after we finish this amazingness, we can jump into this amazingness.
I came for the collards, I'm staying for the pound cake.
Staying for the pound cake. Yep. See, there we go. We got this down. When you think about all the great foods that are in the world today that people talk about, it all started out with lowly, it always started out as a lowly ingredient. Mm-hmm. Something no one is really like onto doing a lot of or whatever, and most amazing.
But whatever the ingredient is, the people that prepare it with intention.
With intention and with love. There's a saying, cook with your heart and let it come through your hands. If that happens, your dishes will always come out right.
Well, I can feel the heart.
There you go. Well,
thank you so much,
Thank
Matthew.
you. You're welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey everybody, just wanted to take a quick second to express gratitude to everyone who's watched our videos. If you've watched one or if you've watched all of them, we really, really appreciate the opportunity to record these and tell stories about people and ideas that we really care about. So thank you so much for allowing us that opportunity, and we do hope you plant a seed, watch it grow, and share the harvest. Take care and eat well. Happy holidays.